Hey folks, we made it. That's Vickie right there, right next to me. That's Vickie.
Howdy.
And that's Jennifer over there on the right. I'm Gary. We're at Vickie's house. And we have a truckload and a half of stuff to show. And as we were talking ahead of time, if we run out of stuff that Vickie set over here for us to look at, we'll just grab some stuff off the walls and keep going. So, yeah. So thanks for joining us, everybody. This is Vickie LoPiccolo Jennett, Needlework Press, in case anybody doesn't know her. Logo up there at the top that you probably recognize, though you don't use that much anymore, do you? Some?
On the back of things, yeah.
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 So, but samplers, historian, the whole bit. So we're going to get, we got one laying right in front of us that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do, because we're live here, is I have my phone on a selfie stick, and we're going to lay things on the table. Whoops, I lost Jennifer. She'll be back. Lay things on the table, and then I'll just move the phone around so we can zoom in, and Vickie will point at things and tell us about it. So here comes Jennifer back. Maybe. There she is. Okay, so we'll do it that way. So I'll move the camera slowly so you don't get a headache, and we're just going to have at it. So some announcements. I'll get over here real close to Vickie. Sunday is, that's all right, you're fine. They don't need to see me, trust me. They don't need to see me. Karen Teresi now, Sunday, she's from the UK and does an awful lot of embroidery work in the fashion, movie, and theater worlds. So that's going to be fun to talk to her. It'll be a whole different world to talk about, so be sure and catch that. And then I put up 14 videos from Needlework Galleria. There's 14 of them on the YouTube site. So if you haven't seen those, check those out. Went around and just interviewed various designers, saw some of their stuff, went to the stitch room and had a lot of fun with the ladies in there. So, excuse me, check that out. There's 14 of them. Most of them are short, like they're 10 minutes or less, so you can rip through them quickly, but a lot of fun there. And what a great show. If you get a chance next year to go to the Needlework Galleria in St. Louis, do it, because a lot of fun. A lot of people all over stitching in the restaurant area. Somebody rented a room for their group, a massive room from the Galleria for stitching. People just camp out. They brought snacks and drinks and everything and just camped out, stitched. They go upstairs and shop, come back, because you can buy stuff. It's a retail shopping experience. Really a great show and a great concept. So encourage you to check that out. Check out the videos. Now, next week I'm going to be at the attic with Jean Lee. So our show next week will be at the attic with Jean Lee, and as I've mentioned a couple times, I think we'll be able to find a couple samplers there if we try. So we should be okay on that. But same time, same channel, Jean Lee will be with us. Then the 13th, Deb DeCrane will be with us to do lacing. And I just learned today that she's going to lace one of Beth's projects. So that'll be fun. So we'll get to see how to do lacing. And write some of these things down coming up now. On the 20th.
All right, Gary.
What?
All right. I think we're having some weird problems. I'm having massive echoes. And
really?
Then some people are having buffering. Do we need to do I need to get out and come back, or because I'm getting massive echo? Since it just kicked me out all of a sudden. That's why I disappeared. It was just like,
I keep freezing. Oh, we don't have enough bandwidth then.
and you keep, it's like blah 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 blah.
Oh.
Echoing weird.
Ah.
I'm gonna leave.
Okay, you leave and see if that gets better. Okay, folks, let us know. Is this better now without Jennifer? Or am I still flinching? Thanks for letting us know. Oh, here comes Jennifer back. Okay.
Hello, I'm back.
Is the sound still doing that?
Now it's normal.
Okay.
How's the video?
So let's see if everybody else says it's normal.
What are
it
we
takes
getting,
about
folks?
what?
Is the sound messed
seconds?
up, folks? Because we got to have good sound.
Yeah.
Test, test, test. Somebody let us know out there in
Yeah,
the
let's-
audience. Are we coming through okay?
Yeah. Oh, even Marga said there was lots of buffering
Oh, nuts.
in the comments. I don't know if you can see the comments,
Yep, I can see the comments.
but let's see. Okay.
Test, test. Are
Let's see
we
if
still
it's-
buffering? Somebody let us know. Test, test, test. I had to sign out and come back in. Nuts.
Is the video,
What are we doing? Folks, let us know. Jennifer, is it buffering? Does it seem to be okay?
Yeah, you sound fine to me now, but like I said,
how about the
buffering
video?
has
Do you
seemed to
wanna-
stop now. Ivy says it's seemed to stop, so
Well, buffering has seemed to
'Cause
stop.
it-
Okay. All right,
yeah,
we'll go with that.
'cause it
Let us
kicked
know.
me out.
Let us know
Yeah.
if it is
If it's
too
weird,
much. Let us know if it's too much, folks.
It's working for me, somebody just said.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
okay.
Jean Lee on the 6th. So I'll start these all over now because everybody missed it. So
Yeah.
Karen Teresi on Sunday, and that's going to be embroidery in the movies and theater and fashion. So that'll be fun. Then there are 14 videos on the YouTube channel from the Needlework Galleria event. And you want to go to that. You want to see that. That's a great program. You can go there, you can shop. They have stitching rooms. It's in an embassy suite. There's a vast dining area. People set up on tables and stitching. So people are stitching everywhere, and then they go shopping. And because retail, it does the designers are all have rooms set up, and then you can buy retail. So next year you want to go if you can. And nobody's complaining about sound, so it must be okay. Now, on the 13th,
yeah.
Deb DeCrane will be here to do lacing. And just learned the other day she's going to lace one of Beth's projects. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll also learn how to do lacing. So make sure you bring something to make notes so that you can remember things. It'll be recorded. You can watch it again. A lot of buffering. I have no echo sounds. Sounds normal now. Looks like we got it. Looks like we got it.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. Yay. Let us know. If it gets bad, folks, let us know. Because we don't want it to be miserable here. On the 20th, no stitch hour. No stitch hour on the 20th because Margaret and I will be on a plane going home. So, and I'm not going to try and do a live show from the airplane. So, sorry.
No?
So on the 20th,
Why
no
not?
stitch hour. Now, here's some things coming up for you. If you're a male stitcher in the Phoenix area, on the 12th at 6 o'clock at the attic, we're having our second men's night at the attic. But no girls allowed. That's how we're doing it. It's beer and men's stitching is how it's going to go. So 6 o'clock. So if you're a male and you're a stitcher or you know someone, but please call Jean at the attic. If you're going to come, please call Jean at the attic so that she can put you on a list because her, with the COVID situation over the past couple of years, her room for stitching has changed.
Phone number 480-898-1838.
She's called it a few times.
A few times.
But let Jean know because she needs to know how many to plan for. And it's going to take a little effort to make sure we have enough room if we have a big crowd. So that's 6 o'clock on the 12th. Now this is one to write down and remember. On October 17th, this is Sunday the 17th at 2 o'clock. This could be a disaster or it could be a blast. I don't know. We're going to have shopping at the attic. So it's going to be like the TV shopping jewelry shows or clothing or whatever. Jean is putting together some packages of things. So we'll have like 10 kits of this and 2 kits of that and whatever the pricing is going to be. So Jean's going to put that together and we haven't worked out all the details yet. But this is going to be on the 17th at 2 o'clock and it'll go for 2 hours. All right, for 2 hours, and we're going to have a whole bunch of things. And so you can call in and you're going to want to have your credit card ready so you can do your processing and get out. We'll work out all the details. We're buffering again. Now buffering again. Jennifer, I'm gonna say goodbye. Just sign off and see if that helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to come back on or?
No. Stay in the audience, but don't. Let's see if that cleans it up. Maybe it's just one too many. Can Jen be audio only?
Yeah. Buffering restarted. Better without Jennifer. Okay. We know she's there.
Okay. I don't know how to do in this instance. I don't know how to do Jennifer without video.
Audio only.
Yeah, I can't. I don't have that option. So let's let it clean up a little bit. I'll wait. Okay, so we're getting a mixed thing. All right, so let's hope keep informing us. But maybe without Jennifer, we'll be okay. Would rather have Jennifer, but okay, let's ride with it. All right, so the 17th, October 17th, 2 o'clock Eastern time, right here on the YouTube channel, we'll be at the attic, and you'll be able to do some shopping online. Now, I don't know how, we're just gonna try and have some fun and see how it goes. But Jean is putting together some packages of things, and so, like I said, it'll be, we have 10 kits for, I'll use an example, the sampler of the month. She's got 10 of them at X dollars, and then when they're gone, they're gone. So we're gonna try that for 2 hours on the 17th, and we'll see how it goes. So mark that down, because it'll be fun or a disaster, but either way, it'll be worth watching. So remember now, the Embroiderers Guild of Western Australia is doing that fundraiser with that German sampler that they did. It has some mixed stitches, and white work is the original, and then they did one that was reimagined that's mostly cross-stitch. So wetalkfiber.com/German, and you can buy one or the other PDF download and help support the guild there in Western Australia. So check that out, wetalkfiber.com/German. Now, no drawing tonight, no drawing next week, because I'm not home, and yeah, not gonna work. But winners for last week of the Textured Treasures charts, and they were in the mail 2 or 3 days ago: Sharon Asplin, Martha Kirkcaldy, and Anne-Marie Makowski. So those were our 3 winners. So there we have it. So that's the announcements. Yeah, that should work, I hope. Okay. Are we doing okay?
Seems to be the best thing to do.
Yeah, okay. I think we're okay. Sorry, Jennifer. Hate to not have her, but we got to have people here. So, all right. So we're going to get started here with Vickie. And are you going to start with this one?
Yeah, I'd love to start with this one.
All right. So Vickie has a truckload of stuff, and we're going to take a run at it. Sorry about the sound. I hope it cleans up now and that we're going to be okay. So I'm going to switch over to my handheld camera, and that's this right here. And we're going to, yeah, we missed Jennifer. Sorry. All right, so we're going to go to that, and then I'm going to get my beverage within reach, and we're going to start, and we're just going to say, go for it, Vickie. And I'll watch the questions. And
okay, Megan was hoping she could be here with us tonight, but with 4 little ones on fall break, she's a little bit busy. We are so excited that you guys could be here in our house, because there are some things we can show you from here that are not real portable and kind of difficult to get out of here. One is a really fragile sampler that Gary's showing you right now, and it was made by Hannah Jared in 1825. She was only 8 years old. It's somewhat of a ratty piece, but it's really exciting because Hannah was learning her states and even included some of the territories in 1825. I've not seen
let me get over here.
sampler that shows states and territories in any given year. And so we're really excited someday to be able to chart this sampler so that you can stitch and enjoy it. Most of it we can discern from the back, fortunately, even with the tears. She's got alphabet, she's got a variety of stitches in the border, but it just is a really tender sampler. Now, unfortunately, you'll see as Gary goes through here, at one time, someone decided they would take markers and color some of the letters. This orange, for example, is definitely been enhanced or ruined, as some of us think, by using markers. But nonetheless, we think it's something worth preserving and creating for you guys to stitch. And speaking of markers on samplers,
don't use markers on samplers.
yeah, don't use markers on samplers.
Speaking of
this is a really fortuitous find, and I hope we can deal a little bit with the glare on these.
Let's move this out so we don't damage it.
Okay.
I would feel really bad if we did that.
Anymore.
Yeah, anymore.
These are two samplers created by the same boy in 1854, and we had a class this summer for the country sampler in Spring Green, Wisconsin, reproducing these samplers. It was absolutely fascinating.
And this boy will be at men's night at the attic.
He sure will.
We had him. He's joining us.
It was absolutely fascinating to research George with a name George Bierce Toby, and telling us that he was 9 years old in 1854. We were able to track him down, get some information on his history, his family, and reproduce these samplers. We decided to do them on linen, even though the antiques are stitched on perforated paper. The one that you're looking at right now with the cows was not altered. Nobody touched it. It's got the original glass on it. At some point, I believe somebody painted that frame. But the sampler's as is. But when we come down here to his second sampler, the G is missing in his name, George Bierce Toby. But someone did take a marker to that sampler as well. And ironically, it was an orange marker. They did an orange and green marker on this sampler.
Talk about in at that time, paper.
Perforated paper in the 1800s was absolutely phenomenal. It was much tinier than what we have today. It was made with precision during the Industrial Revolution, and paper making was a true art form. Unfortunately, today we only have one company making perforated paper. But the good news, the really good news, is that it's now available not only in 14 count, but in 18 count. And so that we can replicate some of these samplers from bygone days that were on 18 count or higher. The highest I've seen is probably in the 20s. This is the new perforated paper that is available from Mill Hill and Witchelt. And even though it's only white, Megan and I have found a way, with the help of a friend, to antique it using some of the Tim Holtz pigments. And we're going to try to, at some point, do a YouTube video so that you can do that with your paper too.
Now you've been working at getting these 18 count paper for some time, right?
Well, yeah, we did finally find someone actually who made us 20 count paper. The problem is he didn't listen to our specifications, and he's really difficult to work with. So we did have it for one class, the 20 count, and it is in the color that we like, that's more antique. As you can see, the back of this is still white, but we found a variety of ways. If you want it to look really old and mottled, we just decided on a variety of techniques that can be used using different dyes. It's permanent pigment. It dries really fast. It doesn't hurt the threads. It's archival, and so we're really excited to play around with the perforated paper. This is what the packaging looks like. It's the same as their 14 count packaging. They just note on there that it is 18 count. So if you're looking for
big old white square 18
yep.
count.
And in fact, some of them still say 14 count. They don't all, they haven't all been corrected.
So this is fantastic. So this is available now. So
This is available. Ask your favorite needlework retailer. The retailer will be happy to get it for you. And each sheet there, if you've never stitched on paper, I highly recommend it. It's great in the car if you're traveling. It's just absolutely wonderful to stitch on, and it provides a really good alternative for some small projects, ornaments, that kind of thing. The paper is available in a larger size. Basically, it's 11 by 17, so that you can stitch a pretty good size sampler on it.
so that puts us in a position to
recreate these pieces.
what George did and do them
Very similar size to what George did.
Yeah.
And in fact, the 18 count paper was not here when we reproduced these on linen. We were very happy with the way they turned out. These will be available. These were a class. They'll be available in March of 2022. We used fox and rabbit linen from Australia, and the threads are Valdani cotton from Canada. And we were just real happy with the colors and how they turned out. Some other little perforated paper pieces that now we can recreate in the same size because the smaller paper is available. There's a little needle book. And we didn't forget EMV, even though she made this in 1850. We still remember her. Now what we cannot recreate today is something this tiny. This is probably about 24 holes to the inch. It's really marvelous how the Victorians were able to create this precise paper, and that today we don't have the technology. It was probably done when the paper was in a pulp phase. It was still wet, and they're huge machines that made this paper with all the holes. We've seen some patents, but we haven't been able to nail down exactly how it was created. And then this one's a little bit.
This is great to have that kind of definition on paper.
This is a little bit bigger. This is 1879. It's a little Merry Christmas needle book. And you can see here the paper was not only perforated, it was also embossed along the edges, and embossed cards were very, very popular and very intricate. Here's one that someone beaded, and if you look at the back of the stitching, first we have to look at the back, Gary. We've got to look at the back of this first. Look at that neat back. That back is just phenomenal. And then when we flip it over, we see that those are beads. Can you imagine being that precise? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my stitching does not look that neat.
How old is this piece?
That's probably mid-1800s.
And that's embossed. That edge is all embossed?
That is all embossed. And it was huge. Back in the 1800s and into the early 1900s, they had these really amazing...
See how steady I can hold this. This is gorgeous.
They had these expositions, and they would actually enter these pieces of industrial-made paper, and they would get awards for them. And on the back of some of the little pattern books from the 1800s, you see that some of the companies got awards for the work they did. They got medals for that precision work.
Wow. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, and then this is double punch paper because we have not only the perforated paper, but then we have the embossing around the edges.
And you can definitely got very little or no acid in these for these to hold up this well, this long.
Isn't it incredible? And today
it would be a yellowed mess.
Right. After a few years.
Crumbling, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, this stuff's gorgeous.
Isn't it fun? Yeah, I've had a passion for it for a long time. And some of you, if you've taken a class from us on perforated paper, you've heard this story, but I've got to mention it. When our children were, they're preteens at some point, and my son was telling his friends about his mother on this quest to find perforated paper today, only he got it wrong. He called it perverted paper. So, yeah, so people were wondering what I was looking for.
Oh, this one here, though.
Let's see. There was, oh, and one other thing.
Vickie, come on. This is just amazing.
I know. Isn't it crazy? Look at the corners. Look at the
tassels.
I
am. That's just.
Look at the tassels.
Wow.
And people paid pennies for that. Here you can see, now this is much more crude than the one below it that Gary just showed you, but these were handed out as premiums, in this case by a company that sold soap. And so these were just like a little freebie that you would get, and you could stitch welcome, and then you could put it on a piece of ribbon, which was very common that they were done as bookmarks. If any of you enjoy old books, old Bibles, you never know when you buy one what's inside. I've purchased several old books that actually had perforated paper inside. So sometimes people did two-sided samplers on paper.
Gonna do one more check, folks. Is the sound okay now? Nobody said anything, but I just want to make sure that the sound is okay. So we don't, let's see, am I all caught up on the, yeah. Okay, let us know if it's not. Otherwise, we're just gonna I'm gonna quit worrying about it because it drives me nuts. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, no, but here's just a little sampler that someone actually made a sampler on a piece of perforated card, and they have their uppercase alphabets and numbers on one side, and then when we flip it over, they have their lowercase on the other side, and stitching them together. So it's just, perforated paper's been just a real passion of mine, and we enjoy stitching on it. We enjoy doing projects on it.
Wow, that's phenomenal stuff.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Put those guys aside. And while we're talking about tiny pieces of stitch work, I'll bring some fun little birds over here. It's amazing when you collect needlework, the fragments that you can find. These don't appear to ever have been framed. This is probably about, I don't stitch on 56 count linen, but it's probably 56 or 60 count linen. That's how tiny it is.
These pieces are about 3.5 inches long.
If that, yeah, if that. There, stick the scissors point in there for you for perspective. And these a friend found these in a greeting card, and sent them to me. And all 4 of them were in the greeting card. And so we collect everything from fragments to complete samplers to humble pieces of needlework, and it's fun to be able to bring them back to life today for us and for your enjoyment. It's a lot of fun. I found this little beaded bird that was a Native American beaded bird. I am not sure exactly where it was from. It was at a Western art show. And I thought he was really cute. And he was clearly used and loved. And we see there's a linen on the back. We can see that it's actually stuffed with cotton. And so we used him as our inspiration to create little sewing birds with felt, little felt. So there's inspiration for needlework. Samplers are our passion, but a lot of these smalls also, we can't love one without the other. We've got to have them both.
Nancy says, where do you find paper needlework?
Antique paper needlework, you know, Nancy, to be honest, I found it everywhere from thrift stores to antique stores, estate sales. You just never know what you'll find. These 2 pieces by George were actually at an estate sale in Texas, and I had to have somebody show up at 8 o'clock on a rainy morning. nab those for me. A friend alerted me. You can find it online. You can find it on online auctions. You can find it on eBay. The best thing is just to type in perforated paper and see what comes up. Antique perforated paper. Claudia at Dutch Treat Designs has a wonderful website up on perforated paper with great information about history, great photographs about a lot of perforated paper, and she's a wealth of information. She's a wealth of information.
Now, here, Sandy makes a point that she's been hesitant to stitch on paper because she didn't think it would hold up. So now this new paper that we have from Mill Hill is acid-free and just as good as this old stuff in terms of durability.
Sandy, it's actually amazing. I've been stitching on paper for years, and it's quite durable. I stitch in hand most of the time. I don't use a hoop, so my tension is fairly even, and I have never had trouble with paper deteriorating at all. I frame it the same way I would a sampler, you know, archivally, and it lasts just fine. I would try it if it, you know, it's two things. One could be if you're not sure if it would hold up in the stitching process, and I guarantee you it will. You maybe need to be a little more gentle with it than linen, but it's actually a lot more durable than you think. It's really a lot more durable than you think. So before we move totally away from paper, here's a little house on paper. We have quite a few houses that were stitched on paper, and we're going to put them into a book that will hopefully be out in the spring of 2022 called Tiny Houses. And we're going to take some of the alphabets and probably a couple dozen houses and put them all in one book. And of course they can be stitched on linen, but we love paper so much that we're hoping some of you will tackle them on paper as well. Okay, so any more questions about paper, about perforated paper?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Looks like we got it. Yeah, Sharon, that paper is old stuff. Sandy's going to use scraps to make birds. All right, good idea.
All right, Sandy, make some birds. Okay, now I had to bring this sampler out to share with all of you.
Bear with me just a second, folks. I got to move a chair out of the way. It's starting to annoy me. All right, here we go.
Okay, there's something really special about this sampler, and it's not the cute red house, and it's not the birds, and it's not the hearts. Her first name is Jennett, and she spells it just like our last name, Jennett.
Where is
have
that?
a look at
Where
that
is
left.
there? Oh, there it is,
there you
right
go.
there.
There you go. Yep. So I'm really searching for a sampler with the last name Jennett. The closest I've come is Ann Mac Jennett with one T. But we were really excited when we stumbled upon this little sampler, and her first name is Jennett, spelled the same way we spell ours, and we're looking forward to charting it. She's not charted yet, but it's just got all the wonderful elements.
Look at how, you know, this shows up so often. These bowls like this, bowls of balls.
Yeah, Gary, that's fruit. Can you tell? That's blueberries, apples, oranges. They're all the same size. Not bowls of balls. Not bowls of balls. They're fruit. Yeah, they're really common.
But there's a lot of color in these things. You got to get in close to see it.
This one is very colorful, and when a sampler retains its color like this, typically it has not seen the light of day very often. This may have been put in a trunk or may have been stored away in a drawer. It probably was never framed, because we'll flip it over on the back and you'll see that the colors are the same on the front. Hey, and this also reassures us that it doesn't matter what our backs look like, stitchers out there.
Go for it.
If we can pay good money for this today, and she has a very ratty back, and I would say extremely ratty back.
Oh man, she isn't even trying.
No. This is, you know, sometimes I think my backs are bad. All I have to do is look at this and realize that.
Oh man.
One of the nice things,
But
though,
the color, I mean, there's essentially no difference.
when a sampler has a ratty back, one of the nice things we can see.
That's our new term, ratty back.
Okay, but one of the nice things, look carefully you can see that there was a twist to the silk that she used. It's really beautiful. I enjoy stitching with silk that has a twist. Alice Schroth used to make a great silk with a twist, but it is really fun to see the threads when they do leave them. And then you can see that it looks like maybe she even got a little bit of wool in here. You can see it's a little fuzzier than the silk. So she may have mixed wool and silk in her sampler. But yeah, the colors on the back and the front remain much the same. Yeah, yeah. So we'll go from an example of a small, tiny sampler to a large piece of needlework that was done on canvas and undated. But I'm showing you this because the Home Sweet Home theme is just really intriguing to me. Now, the person who made this sampler, Elsie Curtis, ran out of her canvas. As you can see right here, she pieced her canvas together. See how thrifty she was. And you can see the original color of the canvas where it was pieced together and it was folded. It was actually light, and it wasn't the natural brown that we see now. But she ran out and she wanted to finish it, so she pieced it right here along her border.
She did an amazing job, didn't she?
Yep, you can hardly tell. You can hardly tell. And I was really curious about this sampler and its age because it is very Victorian. It says, everything about it says Victorian. But when I saw the Home Sweet Home, I thought, isn't that new? Isn't Home Sweet Home a more new saying? And little did I know, but research showed me that it actually is from a song that was written by an American composer and playwright, and it was performed in Britain in probably, I think it was about 1836 for the first time. And there's a song about Home Sweet Home that was very, very popular during the Civil War. In fact, both sides would sing this song across the river. And it was so emotional that there were commentaries at the time that if they could get together, the war could end because this song, the Home Sweet Home, was so sentimental to the soldiers. And so we recreated this quite a bit smaller. I'm just going to sit it right on top of that. In linen instead of canvas. And there is the recreation. And this was a piece that we taught at summer school at the Attic this year. And really enjoyed recreating it smaller and on linen. And of all the cats I've seen on samplers, these are some of the most simple but really cute cats with their long curly tail. We were just hearing about Jennifer's cat earlier, so I don't know what color her cat is, but there's your balls in bowls, or bowls of balls.
Bowls of balls. That's what we're going. Bowls of balls. That's what we're going with.
More of those.
Love the acorn.
So yeah, this is a fun sampler. All I've done on paper was an ornament I've had.
Well, there was a question about could perforated ground fabric be made out of other substances such as metal or synthetic fabrics?
Yes, in fact, there are both metal and plastic perforated materials that are used for needlework. There's even some heavy cardboard. I've seen it in craft stores, and I've seen the metal. There's actually some jewelry. They're fairly tiny holes, and I've seen that you could make a pendant, or you could make earrings, and you could stitch a little flower or a tree or something in there. And I've seen both. I've seen metal and plastic. So
this is, let's see if we can pick that up and show both simultaneously. There, just to give people a sense. Yeah, see? Yeah.
It's probably about a third to a half smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, not quite half. So that's one of the things Megan and I really enjoy, is recreating pieces in linen that may be initially
this is Penelope, isn't it?
stitched. Yep. And she did not date her sampler. but again, we know it from the characteristics, it was probably mid 1800s. This is another Home Sweet Home sampler. It's, well, Domestic Happiness. And this one was stitched in Connecticut, and we have some information on the maker. We've charted it, we've stitched it, we just haven't hem stitched it. Megan is our hem stitcher, and with her fourth child, Violet, arriving recently. But she hasn't gotten around to hem stitching, but we really enjoy the Domestic Happiness, and it's so simple, just the little house motif and another just Home Sweet Home sampler.
You must be having fun with that book on houses.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's we're enjoying pulling them together.
Okay.
We're enjoying pulling them together. Here we have your fruit, but it's on a tree. We have your fruit on a tree. I tried to pull out things that weren't framed so that we didn't have a lot of glare, and also things with some bright colors. Jean Morgan stitched her sampler in 1834, and this a few years ago was a piece that was a club piece for Tomorrow's Heirlooms, and we are really hoping to get this booklet out. It's just a fun, bright, vibrant sampler. She stitched very tiny, somewhere, Forget-Me-Not. Oh, no, it wasn't tight. Forget-Me-Not. She kind of snuck in Forget-Me-Not up there next to her numbers and her letters. And we try to do, there's the booklet, the Jean Morgan booklet, and we try our best to do most of our charts in booklet form because all the pages stay together. And then we also want you to know that you can feel free to make copies for personal use. But booklets are just so much easier than stuffing pages in an envelope.
She's satin stitched.
She used some satin stitch. She used wool. We stitched it in cotton. I love wool. There's some great wools out there.
There's some French knots on that bird? No.
Are there?
I don't know.
No. She just pulled tight. I think she just pulled tight.
Okay.
And the homespun linen's beautiful. The weave on the linen is absolutely beautiful.
But again, the colors, wow. Really hold up.
And then here's a...
What is that stitch in the skirt? Is that
just pulled tight? Yep, just pulled tight.
She was mad.
Yeah. She had a tension issue, that's for sure. And her back is a bit neater than the last one we saw, but the colors are still true and vibrant.
There we go.
A little bit neater. Uh-oh, we can look at my back here on one of these because it's just a bag.
Okay.
Okay. This, I pulled this out too. It's vibrant, and I couldn't put my hands on the sampler that we pulled these motifs from. This was a French sampler, and it had some absolutely wonderful floral motifs, and it had the sailor in the ship. And we did this for the Orange Coast Sampler Guild and added the verse, may you be happy, contented mind, always have plenty and peace ever find. And then said, don't leave the shore without an oar.
Good tip.
Yeah, probably wise. It's kind of like don't start your podcast with bad bandwidth.
That's right.
Sorry, guys, we live in the country and we do have kind of crappy service. But we really enjoyed not only recreating samplers to the best of our ability, but taking elements from samplers and putting them into functional items that we can use. In this case, it's a drawstring bag, but in the process of making it, I realized that it fits perfect over my magnifier light and will keep it from burning down the house. I didn't even realize that was a thing until a friend told me that she actually knew someone that a fire started from the magnifying light, and so that you should always keep your magnifying light covered. So my little stitching bag does double duty as a magnifier cover. Another vibrant sampler with some Quaker influence, or apparently Quaker influence, is Sarah Allen's sampler. And Sarah Allen did this in 1814, and she was, I can't remember if she was 9 years old or 15 years old. 15 years old. She was born in 1799, and we think we found Sarah. It's the only Sarah Allen we could find, born in 1799. And we're just trying to find the Quaker influence on this sampler. The alphabet, the motifs. There are just so many things that say Quaker to us, but we have not been able to definitively tie her to any Quaker settlement. So we're still doing research on her, and she was a class project last summer and will be available next spring. Her queen stitches are gorgeous. It's so much fun to see a basically primitive folk art sampler with a little bit of queen stitch and elegance in it. I mean, it's just amazing. And then she has some queen stitches.
Yeah, let me see if I can hold steady enough.
And there you go.
There. Oh yeah,
Isn't it pretty?
Yeah, she did a nice job.
It's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she did a little strawberry up there.
Wow. She made an effort on those, didn't she? That's beautiful. Yeah.
And sometimes you wonder when you look at a sampler, did she actually do it? Did she have help with those? The other stitching is okay, but not nearly as precise as those queen stitches. So you wonder, is it kind of like mom helping you with your homework today? I don't know. Dad doing the science project? I don't know. Hard to say. Now, I guess we could look at her back. Her back is much better. We're getting a little better with the backs.
There we go.
Better.
No, that's clean. That's nice and clean.
But again, the colors stayed really vibrant on this sampler.
They sure did.
It's a fun one.
What's the queen stitch look on the back side? Yeah.
And most of the front, most of it is executed on the front, so it's not too shabby on the back. And she used a variety of threads. In fact, it even looks like some cotton sewing thread is thrown in there. We'll start on the back of this one because, again, we have a back that's not exactly elegant. But this is one that we are...
That's our positive spin description. Not exactly elegant.
Not exactly elegant. And... again, when we recreate samplers, we look at the colors on the back, we look at the colors on the front, and we do our best to recreate. We don't like to say reproduce because it's really difficult to reproduce authentically and exactly, and we like to have fun in our stitching, but we try to recreate to the best of our ability. In this case, Sarah Johnson's sampler. C. Patrick Female School is in Ireland, and we thought it was really fun to recreate an Irish sampler. She used wool, and we opted for cotton instead of wool. And one of the interesting things about Sarah's sampler is she wrote an acrostic poem using the first letters of her name, S-A-R-A-H. She wrote her poem, Sarah Johnson, Johnston. So she wrote an acrostic poem, which you see occasionally in samplers, that someone will do that and use their name. Now, unfortunately, you can see that the date was torn out of here at some point. So we do not know when she made her sampler, but she had a really fun border. We really enjoyed this border.
Sharon Bruce, this is your next one. Do we have this available?
Why, Sharon? Yeah.
Sharon's in Ireland, yes.
Oh, she's in Ireland?
Yep.
All right, Sharon, there you go. It will be soon. Yeah, the chart will be available soon. Again, you can see we haven't hem-stitched it. We just need more hours in the day to take care of those final details. But we thought this was a really sweet border that she had here, somewhat different. and it would be a great border. One of the things we love doing too is taking a border from a sampler, and when we do the tiny houses booklet, maybe we would combine it with a picture of a house and an ABC and use that border otherwise. But it's an unusual border and fun sampler. We do have someone that got us some information about the school in Ireland too, so that's a fun thing. It's sunflower season. Our sunflowers are kind of at their peak, and this is one I don't have a lot of our models are in needlework stores. A lot of them here in our local needlework store, the Attic. So I don't have the model to this, but Sarah Barker, this is her. She was 18 years old when she stitched her sampler in 1840. And these are about the closest I've seen to sunflowers, so we call it our sunflower sampler. And while we like to think that her border, it looks very precise, and it is, it's not exactly a repeating border, which can drive us crazy. We all know when we get to the end and it doesn't quite meet, but sometimes we just fudge when that happens. But again, this is another sampler that stayed pretty vibrant. There's a little bit brighter yellow on the back, and we incorporated that in our reproduction of this sampler. And we also stitched it on a smaller count linen so that the sampler's tinier. I'm going to now, whoops, I keep losing this, Gary. I'm not good with this headphone. This is our book of days for 2021. And a lot of people requested that sampler, Sarah Gerard, be reproduced. So we answered your plea, and just this summer came out with this chart for Sarah Gerard's sampler. What's really exciting about this is, well, first of all, we wanted to purchase this sampler, and somehow things got kind of confused, and a friend ended up purchasing it, which is fine, because she allowed us to reproduce it, which we are so grateful for. And we were able to write to the town where Sarah lived and get information about the town, about Reverend Naylor, who ran the school that she went to. And interestingly enough, the people in the town had never heard of this specific school. He was a vicar in the town, and they knew a lot about him. But this sampler is the first time that they learned about his School of Industry in Bramford, England. And so it was really exciting to work with the local historical society and have them send us some history of the area that we could include, because it's so much fun when you're stitching to have the history of the sampler. So while we're talking about calendars, a few years ago, we in 2015, this was our Book of Days cover, and it was an excerpt from the oldest sampler in our collection. It's dated 1745, and there's a funny story. When I found this, of all places, I found it in Pine Top, Arizona at a Lions Club antique sale.
Okay.
Yeah, Pine Top, Arizona. Lions Club little antique sale. And I love being a writer first. I love alphabets, and I had never seen such beautiful, vibrant color alphabets. And so the man who was selling it was retired, and he was from back east, and he had a price on it. And I said, oh my gosh, I said, I don't have that much in my checking account, but here's what I can offer you. And he said, I'm having surgery. I'm retired. He talked to his wife. He said, okay, I'll take it. So I sent my friend Jean Lee a photo of it, and she kind of gasped and said, Vickie, do you know what that is? And I said, no, it's an ABC sampler. And she said, well, it's a Boston band sampler. So I researched and learned a bit about Boston band samplers, and we did chart this one and recreate it. Interestingly enough, this linen is quite uneven, so that the reproduction is not as tall as this. It's not square, it's still rectangular, but not as tall. And the colors are so vibrant in here. And this is the Boston band here, Gary. This is the...
Oh, that's what defines it.
Yep, that's what calls a Boston band sampler. That's what... And we were able to track down the maker, and she stitched this in 1745. And so he said it was in the top of a trunk, and that's how it maintained its color. And so we framed it so that you can see the color on the back. Wow, look at that. Look at that.
Oh.
Now there's a neat back. So we worked up to a really neat, nice back.
Wow. So the Boston band, are they symbols, or is it just a...
It is a motif that's common, that was probably taught in schools in Boston in the 1700s. There's quite a bit of information written on them, and there's a whole school of samplers that were taught. Typically, the teachers were in their homes or in female academies. Yeah. And this was a motif that appeared, geometric motif that appeared on a lot of them.
You know, and I just realized you can take those earpiece out because we don't have to listen to Jennifer, so we can drop the headpieces that keep driving you nuts. So this is just a classic motif then.
Right. Yep. From the area. And I'm sure there's some more history on the actual motif and how it originated, but I am not familiar with that. Her stitching is so tiny. Look at those tiny eyelets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're tight.
Nice. They're beautiful.
Holes are even. If I can hold it.
And then
still.
down here, look at her stem stitches on
Sorry,
these
folks.
flowers.
Hands getting tired. Doing the best I can. Where are we down here?
Look at that. Look at that. Look at those stitches. How tight and perfect they are.
Look at wow. It's gorgeous work.
So in addition to stitching, we really enjoy using needlework as an art form and using it in things like the calendar cover. I'm working up to this year's calendar. This was the calendar in 2018, and we've charted that. That was 2017. We never charted her. This is a beautiful.
Okay, so for people who don't know, open it up and show.
Oh, okay.
What does Book of Days mean?
Sorry. So probably in about 2010 or 12, I started making a calendar for myself because there were no calendars out there that just had empty spaces that I could do appointments in, that I could write in, that I could do birthdays. And so I started doing it for myself. And a friend said, hey, why don't you do this so that other people can use it? Oop, there, you can see there, that one I wrote in, California for Van's birthday. But so we started doing it, and the more we did, the more people enjoyed them and asked for them, and stitchers and non-stitchers use them alike as calendars. And so this one was from 2024, and they're month at a glance calendars that have old ephemera and needlework pictures, needlework related pictures in them. A lot of the ephemera comes from our collection. We collect old paper and books as much as we collect samplers. And if you look inside of these, you will see.
As you can see, folks, when
images.
I said Vickie's house was /museum, that's what I meant. There's all kinds of things here.
So here you go. These are the images. A lot of this is from, you can see the date there, 1842. And so we will scan those images and use them in the calendar. And we love, it's just a passion to collect these things, being a writer and being interested in printing, but it's more fun to share them. And so we really enjoy being able to use them in the calendar. Things as basic as old spelling books. Let me get a picture here.
I didn't show this.
Oh, I don't think I grabbed one with pictures in it, darn it. Oh, I grabbed pictures. There's another picture. Book about America.
Showing the people of Chile.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
About America. And so there's how we use them inside the book. Mm-hmm. And so next up And these are just our proof copies, hot off the press.
Well, here,
I
look,
told
wait, whoa,
Gary,
whoa, wait a minute, Vickie, slow down. Look at this.
Okay, there is a book all about horn books, and the original book was printed in the 1800s, and it's got a beautiful vellum cover. And this year, in 2016, we used the horn books, the images from the old horn books in there. And those are phenomenally collectible and amazing, and sampler lovers love horn books. So then that brings us up to our 2022 Needlework Enthusiast Books of Day. These are our proof copies from the printer. They're at the printer now, and we're hoping to ship to shops and our distributor this weekend or first of next week. And
now, when these are available, they go quickly, right? So if people want them, jump on them.
They do. We reprint. Usually we don't reprint much after January because it's first of the year. But yeah, this is the first look at the 2022 Book of Days. The cover is somewhat different this year. This is an oil painting that we have, and we decided to use it because it just really does capture and characterize the art of needlework, these two little girls stitching. So we put that on the cover. You can see here we used some of the old graphics inside. That one was from a photograph called, a line art drawing called Mending Day from a children's treasury. And then we use the small motifs throughout. And we always, in the back, include, for your stitching pleasure, the recreation of an old chart. So usually it's alphabets or some motifs. And so these are charts that we put in here. This one is probably a late 1800s chart, and we put them in here exactly, scan them as they are. We don't make any corrections or changes, so that in your little calendar you also have a chart.
Here, let's see if we have any questions. I've been so focused on. Looks like people are enjoying it, is what it looks like. Okay, so the 2022 book coming up in...
The 2022 book should be in your Needlework stores by October 10th at the latest. And we ended this year, we said, may your threads never break, may your borders always meet, may your needles gently glide, and your stitches bring you pride. So there's the logo, Gary.
Yes, I see it right there.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
I don't make these things up. Okay.
You don't.
All right.
Okay.
Couple more, maybe?
Sure. I can nab some more in here for you. Favorite. We got to get to a favorite. Let me pick up all the books. Move them out of the frame. Okay. Red and white. Who doesn't love a red and white sampler? Again, alphabets are an absolute favorite of mine. And when they're red on white, it's even more special. And this is just one example of a monochrome sampler. And I think they call this the Greek key, this one border that goes around here. I think that's called the Greek key. And interestingly enough, the printing fonts carry over to the needlework fonts. The names, there are tons of names. Times New Roman, Bodoni, Bookman. There's all kinds of names for fonts, and we have a lot of old font books from this time period. And when you see a sampler like this, you realize that some of these stitched alphabets mirror the ones that are in the font books. So that, again, this would have been a practice for someone who likely may have been marking clothing with initials, and you see a variety of fonts there that could have been used. Gary, he doesn't have any cuffs here, but if he had cuffs, he could have GP embroidered on the cuffs so that we knew that was his shirt. Or on your laundry, on your sheets, you might have your family initials so that we knew that they were your sheets. So next time you have to wear a...
next time I'll get my cuff shirt out.
For the men's stitching night.
Right, my cuffed shirt, because I have
stitching
a
night.
nice collection of those. What do we know about the red thread. Why so common? Why red? Why not blue? Do we know anything about, is it?
Red thread that maintained its color was not available until sometime in the 1800s. Prior to that, red thread was considered really precious. It was the dyes that were used to make red thread were really precious. I believe at some point aniline dyes came into being, and that stabilized the dye, and then the red was used more commonly. But if you look at some early stitching, there wasn't early stitching, 1700s, 1600s. There wasn't as much red, and this is what I've heard. I mean, this is what I've heard and learned. I'm not an expert on threads at all, but this is what I've heard. And then once red dyes were stable, they were used more commonly, and more prolifically. But now that we did red, we're going to talk monochrome green, and this is really interesting. I've had some discussions with Nicola of Hands Across the Sea sampler. She recently reproduced a very similar sampler that was all red, and we have this charted and stitched. In fact, I could grab the model, it's in the hall. We have this one charted and stitched and almost ready to go, and she was able to find the school where this was made, and the two girls, the one that she has and this girl, they lived less than a mile apart, and we were able to connect the two, the similar samplers. So it's fascinating when we go down these rabbit holes and we study them. The two are very close, a little bit different arrangement, a few different borders, but basically ABC on the top and same motifs on the bottom. And the one Nicola did was all red, and this one happened to be all green. So there you go. There's a. And again, this girl has an exceedingly neat back.
Whoa.
There you go.
Impressive.
And of course, those of you who collect old needlework things know that in addition to the needlework itself, we always have to have the accoutrements that go with them. There's nothing like having these fun old steel scissors to go with a display of an old sampler. They're just great fun. And the fact that they survived, in this case it survived with the needle case. Someone did a little lazy daisy in there. That it survived with the needle case. They're just real treasures and a lot of fun to collect. We found this box in a little store in Mesa. It was called Tilly's Attic, and it no longer exists. It was near Attic Needlework, and it had a pair of those wonderful steel scissors in it, and it had a calling card from someone named Minnie Kellner. And it had a little ruler from a dry goods company, that William Barr and Company, and that is in St. Louis. And then it had all these curious patterns. And here we had a piece of paper dated 1870 something, and it had some cut perforated paper, and it had some more little patterns and all these intricate beads, and it just was a conundrum, and I couldn't figure it out. Also in that box was this piece of stitching, and I still didn't know what it was. And we used to have a bead museum on the west side of town, in west side of Phoenix. So I took this to the bead museum, and I said, what in the heck is this thing? Now, all that was done was the middle stitching on the turquoise. And the woman said, that's really curious, because it looks to be a beaded whimsy that were done largely by Native Americans. But she said, this is just not a whimsy. Here's a whimsy. Here's an example of a beaded whimsy that was a Native American piece. And they were done largely for the tourist trade, for people visiting. So there's a whimsy. And she said, but this is curious because it's just not quite a whimsy. Well, she studied it for a while, and we looked at the box and we decided that Minnie Kellner, this was her beading box, and she had tried to make one. She may have seen one and she tried to make one, and she started it, but she didn't finish it. I was able to find Minnie online, and actually a photo of her. Her great-great-great-grandson who's in Mensa put it up, but I can't find him. I'd love to return this to the family. So I started stitching to try to finish it, and I couldn't work on it. I couldn't finish it. So I had to send it off to a friend to finish the needlework. Somehow it just didn't feel right for me to be stitching on it. So we finished it into a little needle book. And she had extra fabric, and we put her fabric on the back. But the stories I think are probably the most intriguing part about old samplers and needlework. And when we can find a maker and we can find details, it's just pure joy and pure bliss. And to that end, if ever you have one of our charts and you ever have information about the maker or where it was made, or you tell us we don't know what we're talking about, because that happens too, we really appreciate learning all we can about needlework so that we can preserve those little bits of history. And I was going to grab, finally, a little family record sampler. We really love family record samplers when we can find them. And this one, again, is not in the most wonderful condition, but it's absolutely wonderful colors. And we're able to track down the maker thanks to the fact that she included information about her age, when she made her sampler, and then the initials of some family members. Now, while this sampler is unfinished, her borders are unfinished, we'll be able to see how to finish them. And we see that she chose to stitch her baskets over one thread, Gary. Mm-hmm. Those little baskets of balls are over one thread. Her queen stitch is not quite as precise as the queen stitch we were looking at, but the charm in this sampler, the fact that it did survive, because so many of these pieces were discarded, weren't appreciated, were damaged by the weather. And so we just really enjoy giving a voice to these little pieces of history.
Fantastic. All right. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Put us back on the screen here. Oh, my hand. Now I know what April feels like when she gives us a tour in Sydney. Wow, that was great, Vicki. Thank you.
Oh, Gary, my pleasure. That's so much fun.
A lot of fun. These beads in this box, those are...
Aren't they great? They're tiny.
Yeah, little tiny beads. Yeah, beautiful. All right, folks. There we have it. Oh, here, let me, I can do one thing. You want to see what a thrown together live setup looks like? Here's the... This is Vicki over here. All the stuff piled down there. This is what happens when you put it together on the road, right there. Yep. So yeah, for whatever it means to you. That was fun. Thank you, Vicki.
My pleasure, Gary.
All right, thanks to everybody for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I know you saw some things you've never seen before. Check out that paper. We can get that now, right?
Yep, you can get that now.
Yeah, okay.
Just came out a few months ago.
All right, so check that out. Thanks to everybody. And next Wednesday now we'll be at the attic with Jean Lee. So join us for that too. Thank you, Vicki. Appreciate it. All right,
Thanks, Gary.
Folks, we're out of here.